And welcome to another episode of Dan Tony Sports. My name is Dan Snyder, joined tonight so far by Dan O'Shea. Looks like we're the two Dan band tonight to start this off. How you doing?
Oh no, this is going to be a terrible episode then.
I wouldn't go that far. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We're basically just continuing our discussion from last week, which I don't know about you, but I thought was a fun discussion and sounded good.
Yeah, I think last week was good, and we definitely got to continue on that train, and hopefully these other two gentlemen will be able to join us and argue with us sooner than later.
Oh, absolutely. So let's continue on basically where we left off last week, and that was with free agents, and then we'll close out the show tonight by playing a little bit of fortune teller. No, someone that sees into the future, and we'll talk about some impending potential trades involving two very prominent quarterbacks. But today we got the list of all of the people who did not get franchise tagged that were kind of on the fence. One name I left off the list was Lavonte David because he did not get franchise tagged, but he got signed to a contract after. So this list is just players that have not been signed and are currently set to hit the free market, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Right, so we'll start with Aaron Jones. He's going to be hitting free agency, and he's going to be a monster running back for someone. I think we talked about him a little bit last week. I think one team that really makes a lot of sense, we said, was the Bills. Putting him and Zach Moss together in a backfield would be pretty awesome. But he's not the only running back. The next two are Kenyon Drake. The Arizona Cardinals declined to tag Kenyon Drake. He is set to hit free agency. And the Seattle Seahawks declined to franchise tag Chris Carson, and he's going to become a free agent as well. Of the three, I think Chris Carson is the one that should be destined to be the backup running back. I'm not a big fan of Carson. What do you think? Do you like Chris Carson?
I think Carson is pretty good. He's had some injury woes, but I mean, I'd probably take him over Kenyon Drake right now.
Potentially. I'm not too high on Kenyon Drake either, but we know what we got with Aaron Jones, and he's a bona fide stud. So, all three set to hit the free agent market. The next one is surprising to me. We thought maybe they would, but the Detroit Lions decided not to franchise tag Kenny Golladay. He will be a free agent. He's going to be the big wide receiver to get in free agency. Who do you think he makes the most sense with? Is it the Giants, or is there another team where he makes more sense?
I think he makes sense on almost any team. You know, he's probably the best wide receiver free agent now that Allen Robinson and Godwin have been tagged. I don't think there's much of a debate. Those were the other two premier free agent wide receivers that I thought of. I would love to get to pay him. I think he makes sense wherever a team can pay him and wherever he wants to play, because the Lions offered him a pretty significant chunk of change, but I think they waited too long. I think he wanted that before this most recent season to get restructured. And then after they sold Stafford, I think he was really and truly like, I'm not seeing myself, winning here. And if you're not going to overpay me, then I'm not going to stay here. So I think he's either going to get overpaid by a team that's not competitive, or he's going to get paid, 18, 19, a year by a more competitive team.
Right. There are two other notable free agent wide receivers. That being Mr. TikTok, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Will Fuller, both set to be free agents. They both obviously bring value. I think neither one of them is on the same level as Kenny Golladay. Golladay clearly could be a number one wide receiver for many teams, whereas I don't think Will Fuller or Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju was shown if he's your number one receiver, your receiving core has a problem. But
yeah, I'm really not sure about Juju. Pittsburgh was in a weird situation. I don't think I want him as a number one. I think there's some merit to that, certainly. But I also think he does a lot that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. He's a very good blocker. He seems to be an unselfish player, even if he's sometimes, enjoying TikTok and doing some crazy things here and there. It's him being cringy or a jerk to another team's logo on TikTok is far from the worst we've seen from NFL players.
Even on the same team, Antonio Brown was recording a fight in the locker room, an argument between Tomlin and some of the players in the locker room. What was that, like 5 years ago now?
Yeah. And they had Claypool and Johnson, who are good, but each have their problems as well. And I frankly don't think Big Ben is all that anymore. I don't think he can really fit it into the tight windows that might have been advantageous for Juju. And they moved him and made him play a lot of different areas of the field that weren't really his strong suit prior to this season. So I think it depends on where he goes, if he's a scheme fit, and how he's utilized. He could very well be a great asset for the right team. Which team that is anyone's guess right now.
We're welcoming in Tony. Tony, thank you for joining us. We're talking about the players that have not received a franchise tag and are currently on their way to becoming a free agent. We've mentioned Aaron Jones, Kenyon Drake, Chris Carson, Kenny Golladay. We're on Juju Smith-Schuster right now. So the Steelers, they need a number one wide receiver. And in my opinion, they should reach out to a team that has multiple number one caliber wide receivers and try and make a trade. One team that comes to mind, I'm sure they're not going to bite on this, but the Atlanta Falcons, Calvin Ridley could be a number one. Julio Jones is clearly a number one. Try and get one of those guys. Not that I want to see it, but Dallas has Amari Cooper, and CeeDee Lamb looks like he's very close to being a number one. So that could be someone to look at, Amari Cooper. The Browns have Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham, two guys that have proven they could be number ones. So I don't think the Browns are going to make a trade with the Steelers. It's just an example. But, I think it would be wise for them, whether they do end up re-signing Juju or not, to trade for a number one wide receiver.
Yeah, it would be in their best interest. I think that's clear. I think Claypool is a nice extra piece, but Claypool and Juju are kind of the same thing. So, you need a defiant number one if they're going to have any real success with either of them. And obviously they don't feel like they want to pay Juju the money. So going after a number one wouldn't be a bad idea. The Steelers don't pick early, so they're probably not going to get one of the prime wide receivers in this draft, but they seem to hit on flyers too. So
yeah, they're also possibly a contender for Kenny Golladay. So they need to address wide receiver, and they need to address it pretty heavy. And they need to either sign Juju and lock up their number 2 receiver spot, or let him go, bring in a number 2 receiver, and trade for number 1 receiver. Because I don't think Chase Claypool's ready for number 2 either. I think he, a rookie, showed some promise, but we're not talking about Justin Jefferson, how well he played, or CeeDee Lamb and how well he played, or Jerry Jeudy and how well he played. I think he had a couple really big games, but not big enough for me to have confidence in him being my number 2 guy either.
I mean, I think you see enough in him to realize that he could be, and I mean, right now that can be good enough for what you need. I mean, like I said, you still need a number 1, but before you can even see whether or not he can be a number 2, you have to have the number 1 there first, because no one's going to be forced to pay attention to somebody else if they don't have somebody else.
Right.
I'd say he has shown that he can be at least a number 2. When AB was there, he was having fantastic numbers, and I don't think he's, gotten slower or anything.
No, I'm sorry, not Juju. Juju's clearly good enough to be number 2. I'm talking about Chase Claypool.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. Yeah, Claypool is interesting. Some games he looks amazing. Other games he's a ghost. I think it goes back to the entire Steelers offense. They barely run the ball for some reason, but then Big Ben, half his throws look like a duck in the air.
Well, he's going to be there another year.
Yeah, and James Conner's not.
Well, I think James Conner definitely wouldn't have been the answer. Well, we'll just address him. Same thing. I think there are plenty of teams that have 2 starting caliber running backs, maybe even 3 on some teams. I think the Steelers should go and get a guy from, well, we'll say Darrell Henderson from the Rams. I think he's good enough to be a starter in the NFL. The Lions have 2. They've got, DeAndre Swift, and they've also got Kerryon Johnson. Those are 2 guys that I think are both starting caliber running backs. Tony Pollard with the Cowboys. The Browns have 2 top 5 running backs in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. So they're running backs to go get. Like, just literally go get one. It shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never one that wants to pay running backs a premium, but you also don't want to have nothing at the position. And if you're a quote-unquote contender, then, sometimes it is worth it to pay that running back position if that's what can get you, over the top, is having an elite talent at that. If you're, if all your other